On March 15th, Sharon and Roman threw a housewarming party. Approximately 100 guests came, including Warren Beatty, Steve McQueen, Peter Fonda, his sister Jane and her husband Roger Vadim, Nancy Sinatra, and Tony Curtis. 3 members of the Mamas and the Papas were there, and other friends of the Polanskis, including Jay Sebring. During the party, an uninvited guest named Pick Dawson caused an altercation when he stepped on Sharon's foot. Dawson, full name Harrison Pickens Dawson III, was with Mamas and Papas singer Cass Elliot and 2 others, Tom Harrigan and Ben Carruthers. Dawson's careless behavior got him and his male friends thrown out by Roman and Polanski's manager, Bill Tennant. Pick Dawson was the son of a State Department official who lived with Cass, his best friend. He was a drug dealer connected to the Los Angeles film and music scene. Dawson dealt drugs independently to 2 of the murder victims at Cielo Drive and was named by several people as a chief suspect during the investigation. Harrigan and Carruthers, both from Toronto, were also drug dealers looking to expand distribution of MDMA into the Los Angeles market. According to a biography of Roman Polanski, his manager would later tell the police that this individual and his friends had returned to the residence at regular intervals over the next 4 months, apparently in a bid to sell drugs. The day after the party, Roman flew to Rio de Janeiro. He was beginning work on the script for Day of the Dolphin, a film he was hired to write and direct. Dolphin was an adaptation of a science fiction thriller published the year before. With Sharon pregnant, Roman was apprehensive about leaving her alone while he was gone. He asked his friend Wojtek Frykowski and Wojtek's girlfriend Abigail Folger to stay with Sharon while he was away. Frykowski and Folger attended the housewarming party, where Wojtek also spoke with Harrigan and Carruthers about their MDMA connections. They were introduced through Cass, Wojtek and Abigail's neighbor. When Roman was a young film student in Poland, he met Wojtek Frykowski 3 years his junior. Frykowski was a chemist, the son of a wealthy textile printer. Wojtek was not very serious about his work, preferring to spend time with artists and filmmakers. He was married and had a son, Bartek. Wojtek was known for being rather rebellious and quick with his fists, but sentimental and incredibly loyal. He helped Roman finance one of his first short films, Mammals, and served as the official lifeguard on set for the filming of Knife in the Water. Frykowski, a national junior swimming champion in Poland, was a short, powerfully built man whose toughness was legendary among his friends. Once, when he emerged from a bar in Poland, 2 state policemen started giving him a hard time, a situation that would give most men pause considering the regime. But according to his companion, Wojtek took them both like that. It was over in 10 seconds. In communist Poland, Frykowski was that rarity, the son of a millionaire whose money had reportedly come from black market operations. He cut a stylish, almost Hemingway-esque figure in Warsaw's literary and movie world. He had plenty of cash and he spent it freely on sports cars, on the latest Western fashions, and on his friends. Wherever he was and whatever his situation, there were 2 constants about Frykowski. Men liked him immensely, and women were enchanted by him. After marrying and divorcing twice, Wojtek left Poland in 1967. He spent several months in Paris and then moved to the U.S. At a party in New York City, he was introduced by author Jerzy Kosinski to socialite Abigail Folger. Although neither spoke the other's language, they found a common tongue in French. Wojtek moved into Abigail's apartment while she worked at the Gotham Book Mart, a New York literary landmark. Abigail Ann Folger grew up in wealth and privilege in San Francisco. Her great-grandfather, originally from Nantucket, set off in 1850 with hopes of striking it rich in the California gold rush. Instead, he made his fortune with the import and roasting of coffee beans. James Ahern Folger's company bore his name and continued its success with each passing generation. Folgers became the third largest coffee wholesaler in America thanks to James' grandsons, James III and Peter. The family sold the business to Procter & Gamble in 1963, but continued to manage Folgers as a P&G subsidiary. Peter Folger, Abigail's father, was a skilled athlete, a former football player at Yale who also excelled at polo and track. He served as a Marine major during World War II. But Abigail was especially close with her mother. Ines Puy Mejia Folger was born in California of Salvadoran heritage. Her father was a consulate for El Salvador, and Ines was educated in Europe. She married Peter Folger in 1933 and had 2 children, Abigail and a son named after his father. Ines divorced Peter in 1952. He cheated on her and impregnated his secretary, whom he later married. Her parents instilled in Abigail, or Gibby as she was known to friends, with a sense of curiosity about history and culture, along with a moral responsibility to help those less fortunate. Ines was a voracious reader, opinionated and lively, the kind of woman who was the center of attention at dinner parties. Abigail was shy but engaging. She attended private high school in Carmel. Patricia Hearst later attended the same finishing school, and was a 1961 debutante on the San Francisco Social Register. She went on to attend Radcliffe College in Cambridge and then Harvard, graduating with honors in art history. She was also a very talented pianist. Her first job after college was at the University of California Art Museum in Berkeley. Her former supervisor, UC professor Peter Sells, recalled, "She was very outgoing, very enthusiastic, and did a beautiful job organizing the Fine Art Museum Council. She wasn't a hippie type at all. She didn't look, dress, or act like a hippie." Abigail moved to New York after Berkeley, where she worked for a magazine publisher and then for the Gotham Book Mart. In the spring of 1968, Gibby and Wojtek drove cross-country to California. They rented a home at 2774 Woodstock Road in Laurel Canyon, across the street from Mama Cass. Wojtek wrote poetry and took odd jobs in construction and on film sets, but mostly lived off the money Abigail received each month from her wealthy father. Abigail, like her mother, felt a duty to serve the poor and underprivileged. Ines at the time was volunteering at the Free Clinic in San Francisco, the same facility where the Manson family were treated. It is unclear if either Folger woman ever met Charlie or his followers, but there were occasions, like fundraising dinners, where the group may have interacted. In Los Angeles, Abigail registered as a volunteer social worker for the county welfare department. She then threw her efforts into the political campaign of council member Tom Bradley, who was running for mayor. She was devoting much of her time to helping others and quickly burning out as a result. Her drug use, along with Wojtek's, began to escalate. When Bradley, who was black, lost the election thanks to a nasty and racially charged smear campaign, Abigail was despondent. It was during Bradley's campaign that Roman asked the couple to stay with Sharon at their home. In the ensuing years, it's been easy to paint Roman Polanski as a cad, and his wife and her friends with a similarly broad brush. Sharon has become a saint. Jay, a sadomasochistic ex-lover who secretly still pined for his ex-girlfriend, and Wojtek is viewed as a grifter, a parasite. But there are 2 victims from that ghastly night of murder who often get overlooked: Abigail and Steve Parent, who was literally at the wrong place and time that fateful night. Abigail was neither a saint nor a sinner. She was all too human, blessed with riches and appealing looks, formed by the best education that money could buy, but doomed to fall in love with someone who expected her to take care of him rather than the other way around. She had a very big heart and was woefully meek about protecting it. Sharon Tate naturally has this big white spotlight around her persona and memory, the beautiful actress who should have been a star, the expectant young wife who should have had the chance to be a mother, But sadly, that means that the spotlight rarely shines on Abigail Folger, who was also beautiful, kind, and deserving of a better life than her untimely end afforded her. On March 16th, Sharon drove her husband to the airport, then returned home to help settle in their house guests. It didn't take long for Gibby and Sharon to bond. There were times when Wojtek tried Sharon's patience, but there was real affection and friendship between the two women. Charlie did not know that Terry Melcher had moved out of Cielo Drive 2 months before. On March 23rd, he went to Benedict Canyon looking for the producer. Manson, wearing a fringed buckskin suit, sauntered onto the property where he encountered Shirok Hatami, Sharon's photographer friend. Hatami was visiting Sharon, taking pictures of her that day. He was outside, readying his equipment for photos by the poolside, when Manson arrived. The buckskin suit was new. Katie Krenwinkel bought about a dozen deer hides, and the girls attempted to fashion buckskin outfits for the family menfolk. These would be all-purpose buckskins, combat-ready clothing that would last indefinitely and be conducive to desert life, like a second skin that could be washed right on their bodies with soap and water. When the girls' efforts proved less than satisfactory, Charlie took the hides to a guy named Brother Eli, who sewed the buckskin outfits at his Santa Barbara leather factory. Eli was also the high priest of a clandestine Santa Barbara occult group, which the local police believed to be a chapter of the Process Church. Sharon Tate, Wojtek Frykowski, Abigail Folger, and Jay Sebring were all inside the house that day. Charlie approached the front porch, and Hatami walked up the path from the pool to greet him. When Manson demanded to see Melcher, Hatami said he didn't know any Melcher and suggested he check the guest house. Charlie walked down the flagstone path to the small cottage. There he encountered landlord Rudy Altabelli. Altabelli met Manson once the summer before at Dennis Wilson's home. He'd heard Manson's rap and wasn't interested. In fact, he thought the musician was a leech. That March, when Manson showed up at his house, Altabelli ordered him off the property. Voices were raised. At some point, the foursome in the main house looked out to see what the fuss was. Sharon stepped onto the front porch, just as Manson finally understood that the man he was looking for no longer lived there, and he needed to buzz off. The next day, Sharon flew to Rome to film scenes in 12+1, later renamed 13 Chairs. She was not excited for the film shoot, despite working with the likes of Orson Welles, but felt it was a good distraction from her personal problems. It was also her last chance to work on a movie before having her baby. She flew overseas with Altabelli, and during the flight, asked him whether that creepy-looking guy came back to Cielo Drive. She saw the man who would orchestrate her murder, and he left her with a disturbing impression, although she had no idea just how diabolical he was.